I got $1 for every time someone asked me about Meghan. I'd be a billionaire. We had such a lovely time with her. And, she was model citizen. Like, honestly, no fuss, hung out with us, didn't scurry away into her green room.
Yes.
Was just completely sort of engaged with the whole process and, knows her food. Nothing to complain about at all.
Well, Poe, this is Natalie and I don't live that life. Once we leave the radio station, we go home, walk around the streets, and no one gives a rat's ass. But in these headlines, you're reading some of the language here. Others claim Poe was left upset and desperate to personally apologise for calling her the Duchess or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And this is a classic one, which I always love, according to various unnamed sources, blah, blah, blah. Oh, my God.
It's ridiculous. It's the first time anything like that's kind of happened to me.
Yes.
So it's been very eye-opening for me to see what she cops
Yes.
every day. It's really full on.
Everything Meghan Sussex does is a ratings juggernaut. And the ratings for the Master Chef episode that she was in just prove it. 1.16 million people tuned in to watch her episode. Half of them might hate her, but they cannot stop watching her.
Okay, ma'am, so maybe you didn't watch it for your own reasons. And that's fine. That is absolutely fine. Nobody is forcing the 1.6 million who did watch. But you are the people we're talking about. You are the ones who show up and watch my content. Never invited you, not forced you, but like the previous video that I did, you don't understand the algorithm. So you've come here and you've obviously listened to what I had to say, and then you felt you needed to tell me something. I don't care what you have to say, ma'am. I don't care at all. I don't even know you, just like you don't even know me. But the bit you and your fellow claim to hate, claim to not like, claim to not watch, you add to our numbers. And like I've been trying to explain to you lot and your type, this platform, all these digital platforms, all these things that want eyeballs and comments, they are so happy with you and what you've done because you've paid attention to me. And even if you disagree with me, and even if you want to put me right and not understand the facts that MasterChef Australia episode pulled a massive 1.6 million total TV views, even if you don't like the facts, lady, the fact that you tuned in to talk to me, to tell me how much you don't like it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. We don't care. The algorithm doesn't care. You care. You care. This is why you're here. And I will keep coming back to educate you and your type and your like, because you don't understand the numbers. But thank you for adding to my numbers, because this is how it works. This is how the digital world works. And thank you to people like you who don't understand, who keep adding to the numbers. I hope that helps you. And yeah, you didn't watch it, and that's fine. But most of Australia watched it, so that's fine too. It doesn't matter that you didn't tune in. It doesn't. Hope this helps.
Squaddies, can we please stop acting like Meghan woke up one morning and discovered lifestyle content? Because apparently some people have only just discovered that Meghan has been interested in this stuff for years. Before the royal titles, before the palace, before the endless headlines, there was the TIG. Meghan was already talking about food, travel, fashion, culture, personal growth, and everyday experiences. She was already creating content, already interviewing people, already talking about things she enjoyed. So when I see people acting like Meghan suddenly invented this whole lifestyle career after leaving royal life, I'm sitting there thinking, have you guys been paying attention? This isn't some random career move that appeared out of thin air. It's actually much simpler. Meghan went back to something she already enjoyed. And honestly, regular people understand that. Think about somebody who used to love cooking, photography, fashion, writing, or gardening, but life got in the way. Maybe they got married. Maybe they changed jobs. Maybe they had children. Maybe they moved. Maybe responsibilities took over. Then years later, they finally get the chance to pick that interest back up. Would you say, wow, what a shocking reinvention? No, you'd probably say, good for them. They're doing something they love again. That's normal life. And that's how I look at Meghan's lifestyle work. Royal life didn't create her interest in these subjects. If anything, it put a massive pause on that part of her life. Now she has the freedom to explore it again. And suddenly, everybody has something to say. Apparently, Meghan needs to submit an application before she's allowed to talk about jam. Calm down. It's food. It's lifestyle. It's creativity. People do this every single day. And that's why the TIG matters so much to this conversation, because it gives us context. It shows that Meghan wasn't sitting around thinking, what career can I invent next? She already had a creative interest in this space. She already had an audience. She already had a voice. She already had a platform. The royal chapter came later. So if she wants to return to that world now, why is that so difficult for some people to understand? Maybe because some people prefer the story that Meghan is constantly reinventing herself. But there's another way to look at it. Maybe she's simply continuing something she started a long time ago. And I actually think that's more interesting, because there is something very human about returning to a part of yourself that you had to put aside. We've all done it. You put something on the shelf because life gets busy. Then one day you look at it again and think, you know what, I actually miss this. And you pick it back up. That's not fake. That's not desperate. That's life. And Meghan doesn't need anybody's permission to do it. She doesn't need people on social media approving her career choices. She doesn't need a royal commentator giving her a 5-star rating. She certainly doesn't need somebody sitting in a television studio saying, I don't think Meghan should be doing lifestyle. Why not? Who appointed you the Minister of Lifestyle? Let the woman work. And here's the thing I really want people to understand. You don't have to like every project Meghan produces. That's completely fair. That's normal criticism. But that's very different from pretending Meghan has no right to be in the space at all. Because the history is there, the interest was there, the creativity was there, the TIG was there. This didn't start yesterday. And that's why I think the Meghan is desperately reinventing herself narrative misses the bigger picture. She isn't desperately trying to become somebody else. She's exploring a part of herself that was already there. And maybe that's the part people should focus on. Not why is Meghan doing lifestyle, but what happens when Meghan finally gets to do the things she was interested in before royal life interrupted them. Now that is the interesting question. Because Meghan isn't starting from zero. She's bringing experience, she's bringing her existing interests, she's bringing her own taste, and she's building from there. So Squaddies, the next time somebody tells you Meghan has suddenly become a lifestyle personality, remember, the TIG was already there, the interests were already there, the passion was already there, royal life came in between. Now she's picking that thread back up, and honestly, good for her. If you've spent years putting pieces of yourself aside because life demanded it, you know exactly how satisfying it feels to finally say, you know what, I'm going back to doing what I love. That's not reinvention, that's coming back to yourself. Squaddies, somebody please explain this imaginary celebrity rulebook to me, because apparently Meghan forgot to submit her application. Look around. Actors become fashion designers, musicians launch beauty companies, athletes become entrepreneurs, television personalities release cookbooks, celebrities create wellness brands, clothing lines, home products and lifestyle businesses all the time. And what do we usually hear? Wow, she's ambitious. Look at her building an empire. Good for him, he's diversifying. Everybody claps, everybody celebrates the hustle. But then Meghan does something in the lifestyle space, and suddenly it's, but does she really belong there? Excuse me, since when did lifestyle media become an exclusive nightclub with a bouncer at the door? Sorry, Meghan, your name isn't on the list. Who made the list? That's the question. Because this is where the double standard becomes impossible to ignore. Meghan isn't doing something completely unheard of. She's entering an industry that is already packed with celebrities, entrepreneurs, creators, and personalities. People move between industries every day. An actor can suddenly become a designer, a singer can launch perfume, an athlete can start a clothing brand, a television star can write a cookbook, and nobody asks who gave them permission. But with Meghan, the conversation can quickly become, what right does she have to do this? Why? Why is ambition a wonderful quality when somebody else displays it, but suddenly suspicious when Meghan does? That's the part that makes me laugh, because Meghan doesn't need to sit an entrance exam before she's allowed to cook, create, write, design, or build a business. Imagine the interview. Welcome, Meghan. Before you enter lifestyle media, please answer these 5 questions. What is your favorite recipe? Name 3 candles. Please explain why you believe you deserve to make jam. Excellent. Unfortunately, you failed the royal lifestyle assessment. Come on, let the woman work. And here's the thing regular people understand. Most of us don't stay in one lane forever. You might start in one job and move into another. You might discover a new skill. You might turn a hobby into a business. You might decide at 40 that you want to do something completely different. And when you do that, people usually call it growth. Nobody says, "Excuse me, you were an accountant for 10 years. You have no business opening a bakery." They might question whether your cakes taste good, and that's fair. Judge the cake, not whether the baker is allowed to exist. That's exactly how I think Meghan should be treated. If you don't like the product, say you don't like it. If you don't like the recipe, fine. If you don't like the business idea, explain why. That's legitimate criticism. But questioning Meghan's right to enter the space in the first place, that's something else. Because she's not asking to become the only person in lifestyle media, she's simply participating. And that's what makes the reaction so strange. Meghan's critics often act as though she has walked into somebody else's territory and stolen the keys. She hasn't. Lifestyle is a huge industry. There is room for everybody. There are thousands of creators, thousands of businesses, thousands of personalities. So why does Meghan's presence create such a fuss? Maybe because people aren't simply judging the business. They're judging Meghan. And that's an important distinction. Because when another celebrity launches something, people can focus on the product. With Meghan, the conversation can immediately become about her personality, her motives, her image, and whether she supposedly belongs, before you've even tried the product. Imagine going to a restaurant and refusing to taste the food because you don't like the chef's haircut. What are we doing? Judge the food. And that's what I want to see with Meghan. Judge the work, judge the quality, judge the business, judge the results. But stop acting like she needs somebody's permission to participate. Because ambition isn't a royal privilege, creativity isn't a royal privilege, entrepreneurship isn't a royal privilege, and lifestyle certainly isn't a private club. Meghan is allowed to try, she's allowed to succeed, she's allowed to fail, she's allowed to learn, she's allowed to build something new, just like everybody else. And honestly, Squaddies, that's the part I love. Because Meghan doesn't need to convince every critic that she belongs. She just needs to keep doing the work. Let the critics complain, let the commentators debate, let the internet argue about jam until Christmas. Meanwhile, Meghan can keep creating, because she doesn't need to pass an imaginary celebrity entrance exam. She belongs in the room because she chose to walk through the door. And if somebody doesn't like what she's making, fine, don't buy it. But don't tell her she's not allowed to make it. That's not criticism, that's gatekeeping. Squaddies, I have one question for the people who swear Meghan is irrelevant. Why can't you stop talking about her? Seriously. If Meghan doesn't matter, if nobody cares, if she's supposedly finished, then why does every new Meghan project turn into a conversation? A headline appears, then another headline, then television commentary, then social media arguments, then reaction videos, then somebody writes an angry post about Meghan, then somebody reacts to that angry post, and suddenly, we're talking about Meghan again. Squaddies, at this point, Meghan doesn't even need a publicist. Her critics are doing overtime. She can be sitting at home working on her next project while somebody somewhere is typing, "Meghan has done something again." Ma'am, you just gave her another headline. And this is what makes the whole Meghan is irrelevant argument so funny, because the people pushing that message keep bringing her name back into the spotlight. You can't spend years discussing somebody and then suddenly turn around and say, nobody cares about her. Come on. You cannot spend years talking about Meghan and then tell us nobody cares about Meghan. That's like standing outside a restaurant shouting, "Nobody eats here," while you've been sitting at the table for 3 hours. At some point, the contradiction becomes obvious, because relevance isn't the same thing as universal popularity. Somebody can be controversial and still be relevant. Somebody can divide opinion and still be influential. And somebody can have critics who talk about them constantly, while supporters continue watching, following, and engaging. That's exactly why the endless attention matters. And here's the part I find most interesting. Meghan doesn't have to chase the people who dislike her. She's not waking up every morning thinking, how can I make my critics angry today? She's got projects to work on. She's got a family. She's got a life. She's building things. She's creating. She's moving forward. Meanwhile, somebody else is sitting there monitoring every move like it's a full-time government position. Breaking news, Meghan posted again. Sir, please go outside. touch some grass, have a sandwich, let the woman live. And that's why I think the biggest story isn't actually Meghan's critics. It's the fact that Meghan continues to occupy space in the public conversation, whether those critics like it or not. They can call her irrelevant. They can say people have moved on. They can insist nobody is watching. But if they keep writing about her, arguing about her, analysing her, and reacting to everything she does, they're keeping the conversation alive themselves. And that is the irony. Meghan doesn't have to mention them. She doesn't have to respond to every insult. She doesn't have to spend her day fighting with strangers online. She can simply keep doing her thing, and if people are interested, they'll show up. If they're not interested, they'll move on. That's how the real world works. You don't have to force attention. People either care or they don't. And when people keep clicking, watching, commenting, debating, and arguing, well, somebody clearly cares. So perhaps we should retire the Meghan is irrelevant line, because every time somebody announces that Meghan is irrelevant, they immediately spend another 5 minutes talking about Meghan. Every single time. And Squaddies, that is comedy gold. The woman doesn't even need to enter the argument. Her critics enter it for her. They bring up her name, they create the debate, they generate the headlines, they keep the conversation moving. Meanwhile, Meghan can stay in her lane and keep building her life. So if somebody tells you nobody cares about Meghan anymore, just ask them one simple question. Then why are you still talking about her? And watch the room go quiet, because that's the ultimate irony. The people determined to prove Meghan doesn't matter keep proving that she does. And honestly, Squaddies, Meghan doesn't need to chase relevance. Apparently, relevance keeps chasing her. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. I am your host, Miles. Until next time, goodbye.